Forget the romantic trail songs and tall-tale cowboy myths. The real West wasn't heroic, it was hostile. Men rode through heat that split skin, storms that swallowed herds, and cold nights that froze a rider stiff in his bedroll before dawn. And what kept them alive wasn't luck or bravado. It was the battered iron and rawhide tools they carried every day, the gear they used to fix saddles, mend reins, start fires, cut rope, and keep their horses moving when the country turned cruel. Steel edges honed by firelight, hoof tools scraping out stones that could cripple a mount, rawhide strips tightening gear before it failed at a full gallop. These weren't accessories, they were survival, the thin barrier between making it home and being buried on the open range. Today, we're uncovering 15 essential tools that kept cowboys fed, mounted, warm, dry, and alive when the frontier pushed back. No legends, no exaggeration, just the brutal reality of how cowboys actually endured the West. So pull your hat low and tighten that cinch. And meet the tool every trail rider guarded like his last heartbeat, because men who lost it didn't last long. Number 10, the iron fire striker, the tool that decided who survived the night. In 1874, a Cheyenne River freight outfit listed a simple item on its inventory ledgers: one iron striker and a pouch of flint. It wasn't expensive, it wasn't impressive, but without it, a cowboy faced the plains with no fire and no chance. The striker was a hardened steel bar, curved to sit flat in the palm. When snapped against sharp flint, it blasted sparks into tinder made from charcloth or scraped cedar shavings. General stores from Dodge City to Miles City sold these kits for pennies, calling them trail fire sets in their catalog notes. A skilled hand could light a cook fire in seconds. A tired rider fumbling at dusk might need a dozen strikes. Cowboys used them on long drives up the western trails, crouched behind saddles to shield the flame from crosswinds. Night riders guarded the embers, so when dawn came, they didn't require a fresh spark. When storms drenched every scrap of dry material, men shaved curls off rawhide rein ends just to have something, anything, that would catch. And when a fire wouldn't take, the danger came fast. A rider couldn't boil river water. He couldn't warm frozen hands after a river crossing. He couldn't dry soaked clothes before the night winds hit. A Nebraska trail diary from 1881 records a man near froze stiff after losing his fire kit during a stampede. He lived only because another hand shared his flame. A few striker sets survive in small prairie museums and private ranch collections, their steel worn bright on the edges and their leather pouches blackened from years of use. Nothing glamorous, just the tool that kept a man alive when the temperature and the odds dropped hard. Because out on the open range, a cowboy could survive a cold meal. He couldn't survive a cold night. Number 9, the tin cup and bean pot, the tools that kept a cowboy standing. In the summer of 1879, a supply invoice for a cattle outfit near Los Animas listed 2 items at the very top: 1 tin cup, 1 small bean pot. Not rifles, not tack. Cooking gear. Because without something to boil water and heat food, a cowboy couldn't stay in the saddle for long. The tin cup was hammered from thin sheet metal, light enough to hang from a saddle horn and sturdy enough to survive weeks of rough trail work. The bean pot, usually cast iron or heavy tin, sat low in the fire and held everything from boiled coffee to hardtack softening in hot water. General stores from Fort Worth to Cheyenne sold them as meal kits, and trail bosses bought them by the crate before the long drives north. Cowboys used these tools from before dawn until long after the herd settled. Water scooped from creeks had to be boiled to kill the things that crawled in it. Beans, salt pork, and biscuits all came to life in the pot, bubbling over coals while night riders circled the herd. Men on guard duty drank coffee straight from the tin cup to stay awake through lightning storms, stampedes, and coyotes prowling the outskirts of camp. When these tools failed or were lost, the consequences came quick. Cold meals meant weak riders. Unboiled water meant sickness spreading through the outfit. One Texas trail journal from 1883 describes 3 cowboys laid up for days after drinking straight from a muddy draw. The cook blamed a lost cup and a lazy fire. Surviving trail-worn cups and pots show up in local historical societies and a few ranch attics across the Southwest, their rims dented and their handles soot-blackened from years of campfire use. They don't look like much, just metal battered by work and weather. But a cowboy without a way to boil water or heat food wasn't just uncomfortable. He was riding toward exhaustion, sickness, and a long walk home he might not finish. Number 8. The stitching awl, the tool that held a cowboy's world together. A torn rein, a split stirrup, a loose cinch. Any one of these could put a cowboy in the dirt before he had time to shout. And there was only one tool on the trail built to stop those failures cold, the stitching awl. Small enough to disappear in a pocket, tough enough to punch through thick rawhide. By 1885, trail outfits along the Red River carried them as standard issue. Not because they were fancy, because without one, leather didn't stay together for long. The awl itself was simple, a hardened steel spike set into a wooden grip, sharp enough to pierce saddle skirts, boot leather, and bridle straps. With a few feet of waxed thread and a pair of needles, a rider could rebuild torn gear before dawn pushed the herd forward. Outfitters in San Antonio and Wichita sold these tools by the handful, calling them repair irons in their ledgers and insisting no trail hand should ride without one. Cowboys used them from Texas to the northern plains. A rein repaired in the firelight, a cinch tightened after a long day's run, a stirrup stitched back into place while storms rolled in across the horizon. Trail journals describe riders crouched near the coals, forcing needles through stiff hide while the herd bedded down for the night. And when an awl wasn't there to fix a break, disaster found its chance. A saddle shifting loose on a steep ridge, a stirrup giving way mid-turn, a rein tearing as a horse jumped sideways at a crack of thunder. One Montana note from 1882 tells of a rider dragged nearly 20 yards after a saddle skirt ripped free. His repair kit had been lost 2 days earlier. A handful of frontier awls survive in small county museums and ranch barns, their handles worn smooth from years of hard use. They don't look like much, just steel and wood battered by trail life. But on the open range, leather failed often, and a cowboy without an awl went down with it. If you're still here, you're clearly into the real history, not the polished myths. Keep going, the next tool hits even harder. Number 7. The farrier's hoof, pick and knife, the tools that saved the horse and the cowboy. A cowboy could ride with torn clothes, a bad meal, or a night of no sleep. What he couldn't ride with was a lame horse. That's why the hoof pick and farrier's knife stayed close at hand, not glamorous, not dramatic, but absolutely vital to a rider who depended on his mount for everything. The hoof pick was a simple iron hook, often forged by ranch blacksmiths from scrap metal. Its job was straightforward: clear stones, packed mud, and debris from a horse's hoof before they caused trouble. The farrier's knife, with its curved blade and sharp hook, carved away bruised or damaged sole and trimmed overgrown hoof walls. Supply houses in Abilene and Pueblo listed both tools under horse essentials, usually bundled with nails and a rasp for trail repairs. Cowboys used them every morning before the herd moved and every evening after long miles over rocky country. A single pebble wedged in the wrong spot could bruise the frog of the hoof, making the horse limp. A cracked sole could turn into an infected wound by the next day. Riders on the Goodnight-loving trail wrote about stopping mid-ride to pull out stones the size of walnuts, sometimes while the herd thundered on ahead. And when a cowboy didn't have these tools, things went downhill fast. A horse stepping short, a limp turning into a full stop. A rider forced to walk miles behind the herd while the outfit pushed forward without him. One journal from 1878 mentions a trail hand left stranded for half a day after his mount picked up a sharp flint. Without a knife to cut the damaged sole, he couldn't keep up and nearly lost the herd entirely. A few of these frontier hoof tools survive in ranch sheds and small Western collections, blades pitted from weather, handles dark with sweat and dirt. Nothing impressive at first glance, just iron and wood shaped by need. But a cowboy who couldn't keep his horse sound wasn't going anywhere. And on the open trails, a rider on foot didn't stay a rider for long. Number 6, the belt knife, the frontier's one-tool solution. A cowboy might leave camp without spare clothes or even forget his hat on a windy morning, but he didn't ride out without a knife on his belt. Too many jobs depended on one. Cutting, scraping, splitting, prying, one blade did it all when no other tool was close. Trail knives varied wildly. Some were store-bought Sheffield blades shipped through Galveston. Others were homemade pieces hammered out by ranch blacksmiths from old files or wagon springs. Most had a sturdy spine, a simple wood or horn handle, and enough weight to slice rawhide or carve a notch in hardwood. Outfitters in Dodge City often sold them as ranch knives, the same pattern used for cattle work from Texas to Wyoming. Cowboys put them to work every day, cutting hobble straps in the dark, slicing through rope when a horse went down thrashing, splitting kindling for a cook fire, skinning game when supplies ran thin. One Kansas trail boss wrote that a sharp knife saved more men than bullets ever did, a line that wasn't exaggeration on a trail full of accidents and hard work. And when a rider didn't have one, the danger showed up fast. A tangled rope that wouldn't give, a rein too tight to break free by hand, a horse wreck where seconds mattered and leather needed cutting now. A Texas note from 1881 describes a cowboy whose stirrup strap caught during a fall. A partner sliced it loose with his knife before the horse dragged him across the rocks. A few frontier knives survive in ranch houses and small county displays, blades thinned from years of sharpening, handles scarred from hard use. No shine, no decoration, just tools worn down by work that never waited for comfort. Because on the trail, strength meant nothing if a cowboy couldn't cut himself out of trouble. And trouble found cowboys often. Number 5, the lariat, the rope that did a cowboy's hardest work. Before a cowboy trusted his horse or his saddle, he trusted his rope. A good lariat didn't just catch cattle, it kept the entire outfit moving. If the rope failed, work stopped. And the West wasn't a place that tolerated delays. Most lariats were braided from rawhide or tough hemp, usually 30 to 40 feet long with a hondo loop tied by hand. Some were bought in mercantile shops from El Paso to Ogallala, but many were made on the ranch, soaked, stretched, and dried under the sun until they held the right stiffness. A new rope was a small investment. A dependable one was a lifeline. Cowboys used lariats from sunup to sundown, dragging logs for firewood, snagging a loose horse when the herd spooked, roping calves for branding and doctoring, even hauling stuck wagons out of riverbeds. Riders on the cattle trails wrote about ropes worn halfway through after days of hard pulls, the fibers frayed from dust and strain. And when a rope snapped at the wrong moment, the consequences were immediate. A bronc breaking loose and running wild, a steer dragging a rider into the dust, a horse wreck where a panicked animal couldn't be controlled. One New Mexico trail report from 1884 mentions a cowboy thrown hard when his lariat broke during a simple catch. He landed with cracked ribs and had to ride 3 days herding because the herd wouldn't stop for him. Some original trail ropes survive in ranch collections, stiff with age and darkened by sweat, their hondos shaped by years of throws. They look ordinary, just braided fibers, nothing grand. But a cowboy's rope wasn't ordinary. It was the tool that kept animals, riders, and the whole trail operation from falling apart. Halfway through, and you've already seen tools most people don't even know existed. The top 5, they're the ones cowboys relied on when the land tried to kill them. Number 4, the branding iron, the mark that protected the herd. Cattle might wander, drift, or get swept up in someone else's herd, but a brand told the truth every time. That made the branding iron one of the most important tools a cowboy handled. Not just for marking stock, but for protecting an entire ranch from theft and confusion on the open range. Most branding irons were forged from iron rods heated red-hot in a fire, bent into distinctive letters or symbols registered with territorial officials. Some were simple straight lines, others carried loops, forks, or quarter circles that showed a ranch's identity at a glance. Blacksmiths in towns like Dodge City, Abilene, and Las Vegas, NM, kept busy shaping and reshaping brands for outfits driving cattle north. Cowboys used irons during spring roundups and fall gathers, when calves had to be marked before they mixed into the larger herds. The job was hot, smoky work, holding a struggling calf steady while another rider pressed the glowing iron to its hide for a brief moment. Old trail accounts mention men blistering their gloves, singeing their sleeves, and working through dust storms because the herd couldn't wait for fair weather. And when branding wasn't done, or done poorly, the consequences hit fast. Calves lost to rustlers, strays folded into neighboring outfits' herds, arguments that turned violent on the open range when brands couldn't be verified. A Colorado Roundup journal from 1881 describes a dispute that nearly ended in gunfire after a calf showed 2 overlapping marks, evidence that someone had tried to alter a brand to steal it. Surviving irons from the 19th century hang today in ranch houses, local county museums, and even saloon walls, heavy tools blackened by fire, their shapes still sharp after more than a century. Each one represents miles of rangeland and the cattle that paid a cowboy's wages. Because without a clear brand, a herd didn't belong to anyone. And on the frontier, anything that wasn't claimed was taken. Number 3, the hatchet, the tool that kept camp alive, cold ground, wet wood, and a dying fire. Those were the conditions that tested a cowboy's tools, and nothing earned its place faster than a hatchet. If a man couldn't cut fuel or clear a safe space for camp, the night got dangerous fast. Most trail hatchets were forged with a narrow bit and a stout pole, built to split small logs and take punishment. Stores in Dodge City, Fort Worth, and Las Vegas, NM, stocked them by weight, often shipping replacement handles with the same orders. Some riders wrapped the heads in scraps of rawhide so the edge wouldn't dull against the saddle horn during long miles. Cowboys swung hatchets for more than firewood, cutting poles for makeshift windbreaks, breaking ice on watering holes in early mornings, freeing tangled gear after a wreck, chopping driftwood when storms buried dry fuel under mud. One Kansas trail note from 1880 mentions a cook forced to burn greasy scrap leather because a missing hatchet left him without dry wood after a rainstorm. And when a hatchet wasn't around, the problems multiplied. Frozen troughs that horses couldn't drink from, no way to clear a safe fire ring in high grass, no clean cut for repairing broken tack or cutting branches for a lean-to. A Nebraska rider in 1877 wrote about nearly losing his mount when a branch trapped under the cinch tore loose. He needed a hatchet to free it before the horse rolled. A few trail-used hatchets survive in ranch sheds and regional collections, their blades chipped from hard blows and their handles dark with sweat and soot. They're simple tools, worn down by work, not time. Because on the open range, a cowboy didn't need a big axe. He needed the one tool he could swing fast when things went bad. Number 2, the whetstone, the edge that kept a cowboy working. A dull blade was more than a nuisance on the frontier. It was a liability. A cowboy relied on his knife for dozens of jobs each day, and without a whetstone to keep that knife sharp, simple tasks turned slow, dangerous, or impossible. Most whetstones were small enough to slip into a pocket or saddlebag, carved from fine grit sandstone or imported novaculite, sold in frontier general stores. Traders along the Santa Fe Trail carried boxes of them, advertising pocket stones for ranch hands and stockmen. Some cowboys kept theirs in a greased cloth wrap to protect the surface from grit and water. Sharpening wasn't optional. A knife with a clean edge could slice rawhide for repairs, cut rope in a wreck, open feed sacks, or skin game when food ran thin. A dull one slipped, tore, and broke. Trail journals from the Wyoming ranges mention cowboys taking a moment at midday to give their blades a quick edge, especially after cutting tough hide or working in sandy country. And when the whetstone was lost or ignored, the consequences weren't small. A rider fumbling with a knife that wouldn't cut fast enough. A rope fraying under pressure because the blade chewed instead of sliced. A horse flailing in panic while dull steel failed to free tangled gear. One New Mexico Roundup note from 1886 describes a cowboy who sliced his own hand when a dulled blade skidded across a rein he was trying to cut loose. A few frontier whetstones survive in tool rolls and forgotten bunkhouse drawers, their edges hollowed from years of sharpening. Nothing special at first glance, just worn rock and a wrap of old cloth. But out on the range, a cowboy didn't just need tools. He needed those tools sharp enough to keep him ahead of trouble. Number 1. The canteen, the tool that decided how far a cowboy could ride. A cowboy could miss a meal and keep moving. He could lose sleep and still ride at dawn. But without water, he didn't last long, and that made the canteen one of the most critical tools on the frontier. Most cowboys carried simple tin canteens, sometimes wrapped in canvas or wool to slow evaporation. Others used round wooden models held together with iron bands, the same kind issued to military scouts. General stores from San Antonio to Dodge City sold them cheap, often stamped 1QT or 2QT, depending on size. A full canteen might be heavy, but an empty one was a warning sign. Cowboys relied on them constantly, drinking during hot drives when the dust choked the trail, filling up at muddy water holes where horses pawed for moisture, pouring water over cinch sores, or rinsing a cut after a wreck. Trail bosses on the Goodnight Loving reported riders rationing their last sips during long, dry stretches where no creek or tank could be found for miles. And when the canteen failed, leaked, cracked, or ran dry, the danger came fast. A horse stumbling in the heat with no water to recover. A rider's mouth going dry until he couldn't talk, then couldn't think. Men pushed into heat exhaustion with the herd still moving ahead. One trail diary from 1877 describes a cowboy collapsing after his canteen strap snapped in rough country. The sun took him in less than 2 hours. A handful of frontier canteens survive in ranch houses and regional collections, their surfaces dented from years on the trail and their straps worn thin from hard miles. They're simple containers, just wood, tin, or canvas, but the work they did kept a cowboy upright. Because on the open range, hunger was a hardship, thirst was a killer. 10 tools, 10 pieces of iron, wood, leather, and rawhide that kept real cowboys alive a lot longer than luck ever did. None of them were fancy, none were made for show, but everyone carried the same truth. The West wasn't survived by the fastest draw or the boldest rider. It was survived by the man who kept his gear working when the land tried to take it from him. A sharp edge, a dry coat, a working rope, a full canteen. Simple things, until the moment they failed. Then they became the only things that mattered. The movies gave us glory. History gives us splinters, sweat, busted leather, and tools worn down to nothing. That's where the real West lived. In the hands of working men who didn't need a legend, just enough daylight and enough gear to make it one more mile. If you've watched this far, you're not here for the myths. If you want the next forgotten chapter of the West the moment it drops, you know where to find it. You're here for the truth that's still buried in the dust. Stick around, because the next story digs even deeper into the gear and grit that shaped the frontier, long before Hollywood ever tried to shine it up.